Creating fake 3D shapes in After Effects can be a little tricky, but in this tutorial I'll show you a cool way to rig this 3D cube, and further in I'll show you how I made this animation with it. So coming into After Effects here, the first thing we're going to do is make a new composition, and we're going to make it 540 by 540, and we're going to call this cube. And we're then going to take our rectangle tool here and just double click that, and we're going to fill it in just with a red for now, and we're going to name this one front. We're then going to duplicate it, and we're going to give it a different color, and we'll call this one back. We'll then make both of them 3D, and I'm just going to set this to 2 views, and we're going to be viewing this one from the top. So if I'm moving this back in Z space, you can see what's happening from the top view. We'll just bring up the position on both of them, and we want the back to be pushed back in Z space by 540, and on the top view you can see that's back here now. We'll then just drop that down here, and we'll change the rotation on the y-axis just to go around by 180. We want the z-axis to be facing out on each face. So on the front you'll see it's facing forward, on the back it's facing back, on the left it'll face this way, and on the right it'll face it this way. Duplicate the back, and we'll call this left, and we'll rotate that on the y-axis by 90 degrees. We want it halfway between the front and the back on this one, so we're going to call that 270, which is half of 540. And at the moment, this is in the middle at 270, and we want it to sit over at this side, so we'll make it 0 on the x-axis. There we go. Let's duplicate that. We'll call it right, and we'll just rotate this one on the y-axis by -90, and change the position on the x-axis to 540. And there we go, we've got a square. So now we just need to do the top and the bottom. So I'm going to take that right layer again, duplicate it, I'm going to call it top, and we'll rotate that, we'll put it as 0 on the y-axis, and we'll put 90 on the x-axis. Now we need it to go up and into the middle, so we'll change the position. We want the x-axis to be in the middle, so we'll do 270. And we want the z-axis to be in the middle as well, like it is, and we want the y-axis to come up to the top, so we'll make that 0. And we'll just rotate that on the x-axis to make it -90 so that the z-axis is facing out the way, like that. Let's pull that up to the top, and we'll duplicate that, we'll call it bottom. And we'll just bring it all the way down to the bottom here, and rotate it by 90 on the x-axis, so the z-axis is facing down, and change the position to 540 on the y-axis. And highlighting all of them, we've now got our box shape in 3D space. So we now need to be able to control these. So I'm going to precompose that, and we'll call this cube_build. And we're going to leave this like this for now, and come back into our cube composition. And we're going to make that a 3D layer, and turn it back to one view. And we're going to press the collapse transformation button, which is this one here. And that retains its 3D layer sizes. So if I come back to a top view here, we'll see now that the anchor point is not directly in the middle of here, so we need to fix that by coming to anchor point. And on the z-axis, we're just going to change this to 270 as well. We'll take it back to one view for now, and set it up. And we're now going to change the comp size to your standard 1920 by 1080. And now when we rotate this, you'll see we've got a cube. I'm just going to give each layer a different color so each face stands out a bit more. And now we've got a fully 3D cube from here, where we can control the rotation here and the position here. Just set these back to 0. Next, we want to be able to control the size of the cube along the Z, X, and Y axis, so we can control them all individually. So we're going to add 3 sliders. So slider 1 we're going to call X, slider 2 Y, and slider 3 Z. And we're going to lock that layer here. We're also just going to get a new comp viewer here, and we'll go back to our cube build. So we've got our cube build here, and you'll be able to see how it's updated over here. Okay, we'll start with the front layer, this red one here. And we need to be able to stretch it along each axis and have each of the faces respond to whatever's happening to this layer. So to make that a bit clearer, we need to put an expression on the rectangle size. So we will alt-click that. And we're just going to put some square brackets with a comma in the middle. And on this side of the comma, we're going to link this up to the X slider. And on the other side, we'll link it up to the Y slider. And obviously that has made the face disappear for now because this is set to 0. So if we scale both of these up, like that, it starts to come back. So we put it back to 540 on both, and we're back to where we were before. So now when it scales, obviously the blue layer doesn't stick to the red layer when we try to scale it along the x-axis, so we need to get that to stick. And to do that, we need to animate its position. So to do that, we're going to select all and select the positions. And for every single one, we're just going to select them all and separate dimensions. And we'll close those layers up again. For the blue face, we're going to select its layer, which is the right layer. And we're going to select position on that. And we'll select position on the front layer as well. We're going to put an expression onto its X position. So we're going to do that and link it up to the front's X position. And after that, we're going to put plus, and in brackets, we're going to link up to that X slider. And let's see what happens from there. Okay, so this is close. It's moving, but it's moving at about double the speed we want to. So to fix that, we just need to come into this expression here, and between the brackets, we're going to multiply this by 0.5. And to multiply, I'm just using a little star there. And there we go, that's gotten it to stick there. So we'll just copy that expression over to the left side as well. So we'll come into this, we'll go copy expression only, we'll open up the left one, and into its X position, we will paste that. And if I turn off the right side here, you can see that the left side is now stuck to the wrong side here. So to fix that, we're just going to come back into that expression, and in front of 0.5, we'll just change it to minus. And turn the right layer back on. And now you can see that both layers have stuck. We just need the back layer to stick as well now, so we'll come back into that front one, and we'll go into its size again. And this just needs to be the same on the back layer as well, so we'll copy that expression, go to our back layer, search for its size, and we'll just paste the expression onto there. And there we go, that's one axis done. Next we need to do the y-axis, which has already been done for the front and back, so we'll need to sort that on the left, right, and top and bottom layers, and then we'll need to do the same on the Z layers. The rigging process from here on out will be very similar to what we've just done there. It's just going to be which axis will link up to which layer. So on the top layer, we'll bring up its size, and we'll do our square brackets again with a comma in the middle. And the first one is going to link up to the X slider. And the second bit after the comma is going to link up to the Z slider. So obviously we have 0 value on the Z slider, so let's bring that up. And you can see that's working. Next we need the front and back to link up to the Z axis, so it moves along with the slider. So we'll come into their position, so front position. And we'll bring up the top position too. And in the Z position for the front, we're going to alt-click that, we're going to link it up to the Z position for the top layer, and then we'll add, in brackets, a link to the Z slider, and click off that. And as you can see, it's doing the same thing where it moves too fast, and it's also on the wrong side, so it needs to be negative, so we'll come between these last brackets and multiply by minus 0.5. And that's it stuck there. We'll take this expression, we'll copy it, and we'll go to the back, and we'll paste it onto the Z position. And we'll take out the minus so it goes to the other side. And that's looking good for the Z-axis. We just need the bottom layer to link up as well, so we will copy the expression from the top layer's size down to the bottom. And there we go, that's the Z-axis almost linked up. We just need to link up the left and right side. So we'll go into the right side and go into its size. And for this one, it needs to link up to the Z and the Y-axis, because this one needs to be able to go up, down, left, and right. So we'll do an expression on the size, and we'll do our square brackets with the comma in the middle. And on this one, the left side of the comma is going to be the Z slider, and the right side of the comma here is going to be the Y slider. And there we go, that's getting closer. We'll just need to copy that expression over to the left side. And there we go, we're getting really close. The last thing we need to do is make sure the top and bottom move along on the y-axis. So we'll go into their position. So top and bottom position, and we'll just open the right side's position as well. And on their y position, we'll add an expression and we'll link it up to that y position on the right side and add in brackets the y slider. And that's put it down to the bottom as well. And once again, it'll be moving at double the speed. So we will multiply it by minus 0.5. There we go, and we'll just copy that expression and we'll send it over to the Y position on the bottom and take out that minus so it sticks to the bottom. And now that we've done that, we've got our fully rigged cube which we can scale on any axis and it will all stay the same size. So I'll come back into our main cube composition now and I'll unlock that. From here we can change the scale on any axis from up here in the effects control. And we can also come into the position here, we'll separate that out and we can move it in Z space in any direction. And we can do the same with the rotation here. And I'll just get that back into the center. From here, I'll just show you how I made it look a little bit better, like at the start of the video. So I'll start by animating these keyframes. So we'll start with the Y rotation, and I'll come forward maybe 5 seconds. Just end my composition there, and it can do 2 rotations in that time. And then I'd like to animate my Y slider so it can scale up and down. So I'll put a keyframe here and come forward 20 frames. And we'll send that up a bit and forward 20 more frames and we'll take it back down to what it was before. In fact, let's go a little bit lower. And from here we'll animate the X slider and go forward 20 and let's bring it out. And let's actually do the Z slider as well. So as this comes out, I want Z to go in, so let's get that up and we'll bring that one back here and the Z slider can come in a bit. And we'll go forward 20 more and copy this one and this one. And then we'll do one more where the Y slider can go back up and the Z slider can come out as well. So 20 more frames and the Y one can go back up and Z can go back down and yeah, X can come down as well. And forward 20 more frames and we'll just copy the original ones back in so that they'll all be back to what they were on the first frame. I'll bring that Y rotation in and we'll end the frame there. And let's see how that looks. Okay, that needs some easy easing on it, so let's take all of them and we'll just easy ease that. And I think I want it to go really quickly into each one of them and out of it really quickly as well. So I'll take this one, these two, and these three, and we'll come to our speed graph and just drag them all the way that way and all the way that way. And let's see how that one looks. And that's looking a bit better. I'll maybe just add some motion blur onto this as well. Now the motion blur can sometimes break this effect if you push it a little bit too hard. So we'll see how this looks. And let's see. And this works fine. You can kind of see a little bit on the edges that the motion blur means you can see through the shape ever so slightly, but as long as you don't make the animations too fast, then you get away with it. Okay, next I'm going to change the colors up. So I'm going to come into here and on this front layer, we're going to add a gradient ramp. And I'm just going to stretch that up a little bit and down a little bit. And then I'll come into the original composition and I'll go to Layer, New, Null Object, and we'll call that a color control. And on this, we're going to add a color control. We'll call this color 1, and then we'll duplicate it for color 2. In the meantime, I'll just make that a blue. I'm going to lock this layer here, and I'm going to come back into that gradient ramp down here, and we'll search up the colors for that, which are here, start color and end color. We'll link that start color up to color 1, and then we'll link the end color up to color 2. And now we have a nice blue to red. Just bring them back in like that. I'm then going to unlock this, and we've got our effect back here. I'm just going to copy and paste this onto all of them. And let's see how this looks. This is a really nice effect and it could be used like this. I'm going to change the gradient on each face just so that you can distinguish each side a little bit better. So to do that, I'll come back into here, and I think on the top ones I'll just make it a radial one, and then on the right and left I am just going to swap the colors around. So this one can come down here and this one can go up here, and we'll do the same on the left side, down here and up here. And we'll also come to the bottom layer, and I'll just make that a radial ramp as well. Let's see what that's done. And I think that's a much nicer effect because you can now tell it's clearly a 3D cube and it's just got a bit more distinguish in each side. So that works a bit better for me. Next, I want to add a bit of a texture to it. So I am just going to drag in my texture that I've got here, and I'm going to make a new composition. 1920 by 1080 is fine in 10 seconds. And we're going to call this texture. We'll drop our texture in here and we'll scale it down. And for this, we only want it to last 3 frames, so we'll come forward 3 frames, 1, 2, 3, and cut it off there, and then we'll duplicate it and bring it over to here to the next frame. Now we'll just scale in a little bit, drag it over here, and let's rotate it, just so we have something different to the frame before. And we'll do this a couple more times. And once we've done that, we'll just come to the last layer here, and we'll trim the composition down to there. So now we've got this effect, and we're going to use this as a subtle little texture on our cube. So come back to our cube, we'll drag that composition onto here. And to get this going throughout the whole thing, we're going to go right click, time, enable time remapping, and we'll come to that last keyframe there. We'll go 1 page up, and we'll put another keyframe there and delete the last one. That's just so it doesn't get the last frame, which is usually an empty frame. And we'll put an expression on this, and it'll be loop out cycle, and drag it out here. And that just means it'll carry on doing that pattern throughout the whole timeline. From here, we're going to change the blending mode to multiply, and we're going to change the track matte to only see the cube. And we'll turn the cube back on after we've done that. And there we go, we've got a bit of texture on it. It's a wee bit too much, so we'll take the opacity and we're just going to turn it all the way down to about 10. Maybe we'll try 15. And this is definitely subtle, but it definitely adds just a little bit more to it. We're also going to add a background, so we'll just make a new black solid. And we'll call it background and drop it down to the bottom. And I'm going to take one of these gradient ramps that's linked up to the color control, and I'm going to take it and put it on this background. And I'm just going to drag these out so it covers the whole frame. Next, we want to darken the edges a little bit, so we'll add an adjustment layer and we'll rename it. And we'll come into our ellipse tool up here and we'll just double click that. Change it to subtract, and we want to feather this out by about 400. And we'll add a curves effect, and let's bring the darkness down a bit and just darken it here. And here's a before and after. And next we want that texture to also be visible on the background, but again very subtly. So we will duplicate that texture we had before, and we'll change the track matte to no matte, and we'll just drop it in behind the cube there. And we'll offset this slightly so it's not the same as the texture on the cube. Next I want to blur that out a lot more so that it is a lot subtler than it is now. So we'll add a new adjustment layer, and we'll add a fast box blur, and we're going to make that 15. And let's play that and see how it looks. Okay, that's starting to look good, but we're starting to lose the cube to the background, so let's duplicate this cube. And on this one, we'll drop it in behind the original cube, and we'll add a Gaussian blur to that. We'll uncheck repeat edge pixels, and we'll scale it up to about 400. And then we'll change the blend mode to add. And that's popped up a little bit. I'm just going to turn the opacity down ever so slightly to about 85. And that just allows it to pop out from the background a bit better. Now, just to make this seem more like a stop motion animation, just purely for stylistic purposes, I'm going to add a posterized time effect. So we'll make a new adjustment layer, we'll call it posterize time, and we'll add a posterized time effect, and we'll make that 12, so it's 12 frames per second. From here we just need a little bit of finishing touches. So underneath the posterized time we'll add a new adjustment layer, and we'll call this color correction, and we'll add a curves effect, and we'll just darken the darks and lighten the lights ever so slightly. There's before and after, and we'll just boost the saturation ever so slightly, so we'll add a hue and saturation, and we'll just boost it by about 15. So we take off the whole layer before and after. There we go, it's just pushed the colors a bit further. And the last effect we'll do to tie it all in is we'll just add some grain. So add grain, and we want to change it to final output, and we want the intensity to be 0.5 and the size to be 0.1. And that's our final effect there. But because I set up the colors in a certain way with this color control, I can come into here and I can pull that up to the top and just change these colors to whatever I want, and it should change across the board. So let's see what a yellow and purple effect looks like. I think that's quite a cool effect. The good thing about having a procedural color workflow is that you can always change the effect to whatever colors you like and quickly output a load of different looks. And that's us finished there. I'm trying to upload something new every week on this channel, so here is a link to my latest video, and I hope to see you there. Thanks for watching.